I've done lots of things to keep my kids safe. We wear seatbelts. When they were little, we'd hold hands in the parking lot. My oldest just started driving, and we have practiced with her a ton because we want her to be safe. About a decade ago, when I learned about the dangers of common household cleaners, processed food, and conventional personal care products, that same desire to keep my family safe led me to begin a process of eliminating those things from our home. Pretty recently, I read a research report from the National Library of Medicine about the causes of cancer that says only 5 to 10% of all cancer cases are due to genetic defects, and that the remaining 90 to 95% are due to environment and lifestyle. That seems pretty bleak, but actually it isn't bad news. It means that there is a lot we can do, a lot within our own control to prevent disease. What we do in our homes matters. The food that we feed our family, the products we bring into our home, the air we breathe, and the water we drink all have a huge impact on our health. Maybe this is something you've already thought about and you're ready to start making changes. Maybe you've thought about it, but you don't know where to start. Maybe you haven't thought about it and have no idea where to start. Maybe you're overwhelmed with info and need a process to help with decision making. Our guest today is going to take all of your confusion and concerns about making your home healthier and set you on a path of calm and confidence. Shawna Holman is the creator behind A Little Less Toxic on social media and the author of A Healthier Home, the room-by-room guide to make any space a little less toxic. She's about as down-to-earth and common-sense oriented as they come. I know you're just going to love learning from her. Welcome to the Daily Wellness Podcast, where you can learn about healthy living and be inspired to take the next step in your wellness journey. I am here with Shawna, and Shawna, I found you on Instagram, and I immediately loved your page and your content because I love all things health and wellness. So I was just devouring all your content and all of your healthy living tips and your detox tips and all the things. So that was definitely there was a strong, inspiring message of healthy living changes. But another theme that I also really noticed was there was a strong theme of grace.
Yes.
And so I just wondered, is that something that you intentionally built into your platform?
No, I think it just is natural in life. I think that sometimes people maybe get onto the internet and they forget they're talking to real people that have different experiences, or I don't know, or maybe they just feel more free to just share what they would. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but for me, I know when I'm talking to people in my real life, they're all on different walks. They all have different experiences. They have different boundaries. We're all unique. And so I just try and speak to that. When I'm ever talking to my phone, and I know that there's going to be a bunch of people hearing it, I think about how I would talk to my best friend who does not live on the exact same level I do with this stuff,
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I really liked it because in the beginning of my health and wellness journey, I got so passionate about trying to do all the right things that I got really hard on myself.
Yes.
I wanted to do things perfectly, and I, felt a lot of guilt if I didn't, and if I messed up, quote unquote, or, anything like that. So I just really appreciate one, all the practical wisdom and education that you share about healthy living, but also that it's just done with this strong theme of grace. You're doing a really good job with that.
Thank you. That means the world to me because I consider that when I'm sharing. I never want anyone to feel fearful or stressed out whenever I share something, but I do want to continue to share things that I think are true and I'm passionate about and I know can make a difference.
Yeah,
I balance that.
It's important because, everyone listening to this is busy. Everybody is busy. And it's hard to just think about, one, the learning curve of healthy living and all the changes that we need to make in our life. And then two, trying to implement that. And so I just love that, the progress, not perfection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me how you got started with this. Why did you start making changes in your own home?
Yeah. I'll try and keep a long story short so we can fit it into our time. But I lived a very conventional lifestyle, and I felt fine until I didn't. And I didn't know it had anything to do with my diet or lifestyle, or could have anything to do with it, until it just got progressively worse and worse and worse. And the conventional interventions I was using were not helping, and were probably making it worse, or making me worse overall. And I got very, very sick very, very quickly one time. And while I was still under the care of doctors and the conventional treatments, and I almost lost my life due to an infection. And I couldn't live like that anymore. I was tired of being in pain. I was tired of brain fog. I was tired of not getting any answers. I was tired of going to the doctor and just not getting any better. And so I started reading and learning, and I quickly learned about inflammation and how some of the things I was eating or using could be contributing to inflammation, and that inflammation was at the root of all these things I was experiencing. And so I did an elimination diet to start. And when I did that, it really got me. I had to read the ingredients on everything. I couldn't really eat out without asking all these questions, and it just blew my mind right open to start to read ingredients on everything. And I was pretty blown away by the things that I was consuming without a thought in the world about it. And also I was radically changed physically, mentally, emotionally by doing these things, because within days I was pain-free for the first time in over a year. I stayed consistently pain-free. My brain fog cleared up, my skin cleared up, my energy was better. Just so many things changed, and very rapidly, very radically, and it was impossible for me to ever look back. So I just wanted to tell the whole world about it. I started by just telling my closest friends and family and whoever would listen.
Yeah. It's like when you find a great pair of jeans, but like magnified times 10 value.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So like, was this all before or after you had your kiddos? I know you've got 2 kiddos.
Yeah. So it was before. It was in 2013 that I got very sick and very changed. And then I had my first child in 2015, and I had another one in 2016. And I didn't start any of this public sharing until the end of 2018.
Okay. Yeah, that had to have been really scary. Like, I can't imagine being in a place where you were like, am I going to make it?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want anyone to ever have to go there. And I think that is why part of the reason I decided to share more publicly is I think there are so many of us that are really, I don't know, I never thought about like preventing illness in that kind of way, or that there were things that I needed to do until I was sick. And I think there's so much we can do now to keep ourselves from getting so sick, or to reduce some of those symptoms and things that we just consider to be normal.
Yeah, I think you kind of said you didn't know you were sick until you knew you were sick, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's so true. Like, when I started eating better and changing some things in my life, like one of the first things I noticed was that my digestion got a lot better. And I was like, I didn't know I felt bad, but like I feel so much better now.
Yes.
You just get used to, and think it's like you're normal or whatever. But I do think that's a really key part to understanding your health is, and when you start to get healthy, then you notice the little flares and the inflammation and the digestive issues and things like that. And you're like, wow, that's actually not normal.
Yeah. I didn't know how crummy I felt until I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That's a great way to put it. Okay. So then, you had this whole like massive traumatic experience in life. And then you said you started making changes, but how did you start making those changes? Like, where did you start learning? How did you know what to do first?
Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming. It was back then too. I mean, this is 10 years ago, but I started just with the elimination diet, like I was saying, and I took out some foods that I was commonly eating and I thought they were healthy, and they just were not working for me. But when I did that, so I guess my pantry was the first place I started. And that was just out of necessity. And I thought it would be maybe just a season, but because I felt so much better, it became a permanent thing that I continued to adjust over time. And it was really that and the cleaning products. These are the things that I'm just using all day, every day, right? So they just made the most sense to tackle first. And then other things came, either a little bit later or way later, or I'm still working on now.
What kind of foods were main triggers for you?
Yeah, so I did this one. The author's called JJ Virgin, and she calls it the Virgin Diet, but it was gluten, soy, dairy, and eggs, peanuts, corn, and artificial sweeteners were the 7 that you pull out. And then 4 of them you reintroduce one at a time to see if you react. And I reacted to everything. Wow. I got by the end, and it's one at a time, like for a week. You take 4 days to introduce it, give yourself a little break, do a new one. And by the time I was on the 3rd reintroduction, I was just like, I don't even care. I don't miss these things anymore. They've been out of my life for over a month now. I feel so good. I don't need them. I didn't even care to introduce the next one, and I didn't for years. Didn't even want to find out. I don't need it. So yeah, that's how I started.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip, is really learning to listen to your body. Is like a couple of things that you've said already where you're really learning how to do that. And I didn't really learn how to do that until I started making healthy changes. Like, because like I said, I just thought some things were just kind of normal. Like, oh, is everybody like this? And no, you don't have to live life with, these inflammatory responses and migraines and heartburn and all these things.
Oh, and it's crazy because before, my reaction to these things when I reintroduced them, it took a full almost 24 hours for me to react. So if I hadn't have done the elimination, I would never know. I mean, beforehand, I would literally eat things like McDonald's with my friends, and they would all immediately after be like, oh, I don't feel good. And I'd be like, I feel great. It doesn't affect me like you. I really thought that I thought that I felt great using and eating these things, and I didn't, but I didn't know until I took them all the way out. And I see that today with other things now when I'm exposed to, something that's highly fragrant. I don't use things with fragrances. I'm walking down the street and I'm like, what are you drying your clothes in, people? Yes. Because it's gone. Now I know how I feel without it. And our bodies really learn to adapt to all of these things that we subject them to, whether on purpose or not. But it doesn't mean that they're operating at their best just because they're adapting around them,
Yeah, I love that you said how good you feel afterwards, and that you weren't even motivated to go back to that stuff, like to try it and see if it worked, because I think it's kind of overwhelming for some people to be like, I have to cut stuff out of my diet. Like, I have to change my products. Yeah. Like, it seems like a lot to take that step, but it's so worth it.
I think so.
You get started, you start feeling better, and it's motivating. So it's like, if I just encourage people to just start taking baby steps, and you're going to start noticing the difference in yourself, and it's going to be motivating, and then you'll be able to take the next step and like a snowball.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think that there's a couple of ways I see people do it and then it doesn't work for them. And it's either that they take on too much and then they can't sustain it, so they just give up, or they kind of don't really take it on fully, whatever they do take on at all. So I have some people in my life that will go oh, I'm trying to go without gluten, for example. I'm not saying gluten is the key for everyone. I'm just giving an example. But then they kind of go gluten-free, but they're still having it. So they don't actually know. They never gave their body that chance to reset, to see how they feel when it's introduced. And we can do that with a lot of things. So I think go all in with the things that you can sustain, and then continue to build from that. But don't try and flip your whole life upside down. No one can sustain that.
Yeah, I agree. Make one change and get it to a place where you're I got this one good. I'm confident. This feels good to me. It's doable. It's, it's part of my habit, part of my routine. I got this one.
Yes.
We got another one.
Yes. Climb the ladder one rung at a time.
Yeah. So when you were going through all of this, did you have some pushback in your life from family or friends or the doctors that you had been seeing? Or
Yeah. It was both. I think my friends and family, they knew I had been suffering for a long time. I mean, I was having really kind of debilitating, I don't know if it was migraines or sinus infections, but I was heavily impacted by my health. And so when they saw that I had no more pain, no one could really say that it wasn't working. They just didn't all necessarily want to apply it to themselves. And some of the things might have felt extreme to them, or they just didn't understand it. Some of them still ask me, is there gluten in this? What is gluten? And with doctors, I went back to all my doctors and I told them, before I figured it out, I'm like, hey, can we do allergy testing, this, that, but, and they would tell me it's impossible. It's not those things. And then I went back and I'm like, these things changed me. And they really didn't have anything to say, but that you could tell it was kind of dismissive, kind of a condescending, okay, but so there's always been a bit of pushback, and there will continue to be, not everyone's going to understand what you're doing or why it works for you, or
So you
passionate.
learn to be okay with that.
You have to, I'm not trying to tell anyone else how to live. I'm just sharing how I live in case it might be helpful for someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And with your kiddos, and as you're learning, are you trying to teach them along with you?
So much. It's just part of our lifestyle. They don't really know differently, just like everyone's kids. This is their normal, and they're little still. They're 7 and 6. So they, I know as they get older and their friends are doing different things, and they might, I'll get pushback from them differently too. But right now, I feel like it's easy.
Yeah. So what's an example of some conversations you might have about helping your kids, what is healthy food, or what's a healthy cleaning product or not, or
yeah, it's an ongoing conversation. It's never like this sit down. I'd never want them. So I try and walk this balance with them, right? I do not want them to become fearful of food. I don't want them to worry about it. And I also don't want them to have this unhealthy, uneducated, ignorant view of what we're consuming. So I try and just educate them. I bring them into the conversation like, oh, this nourishes, and this might, we had what was it? Just a few days ago, one of my kids really wanted to go to this restaurant we've been to before. And I like it too, but I just don't usually feel great after eating. It's not my favorite. It's not very nourishing. And I didn't really want to go. And, but I decided, yeah, we're going to, it's like I said, it's trying to walk the balance, right? Mm-hmm. So we eat there. And so I do a kind of like a check-in, like, so how's everyone feeling? I know that tasted good. How's your body feeling right now? And one of them told me they thought they might vomit. And the other one was like, my tummy hurts. Like, yeah, you know what? I kind of have a headache too. So maybe it was just that, there's oils we don't normally use. Maybe there was flour in that dish that we had. We didn't know it was there, but we're just, yeah. So I don't know if they want to keep, it's just an ongoing conversation about how does that make you feel? And is that something you want to do again?
I love that. Yeah. Just ongoing conversation as you're going through life.
Yeah. And since they're not used to it, they do get a reaction. So I know it would be different in the household with my kids where they were really used to eating certain things. And then I took it away, that would feel really crummy to them. But if it's gone for a time and then you reintroduce them, they get to have the experience of knowing for themselves, like, hey, I threw up.
Not so much wanting to do that.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we try to do the same thing, with health and really with all things of life, as my husband and I are trying to learn new things or make decisions about different things in our life. We have different experiences, like feeling sick after a meal.
Yeah.
Just talk about it with your kids. And that's one thing I hope that my kids walk away with is, that thinking about your health is just a way of life,
Yes.
like in all the different aspects, even like financial health and emotional health, like how can I be the best version of myself and, live a high quality life because I feel good,
Yeah. Yeah, it's my job to steward them, to educate them and all those things the same way that I would teach them about like stranger danger. I don't want them to go out in the world and be afraid they're going to be kidnapped at every corner. But I do want them to understand we don't just blindly trust everyone. And why would I treat food or products any differently than any of that? I feel like that would just be an injustice, a disservice to them and to me and to our family.
Yeah, that's a great example because I think sometimes when people start out like, I need to be healthier or I need to, eat a certain way or whatever, it just becomes like, it's my health journey or it's my thing instead of like bringing your whole family into it. And I think that's a missed opportunity, really, you can all learn together. And you know what? Kids are really good at keeping you accountable.
Yes, they are.
Mom, I thought we weren't going to do such and such. Like,
right now. Yes.
I love one of the simple steps that I saw on your social media actually was the ALLT method, the simple steps to make life a little less toxic. And I thought, this is brilliant. Like it goes with the name of your business, a little less toxic, right? And it's the ALLT method. Like, would you mind kind of walking that through it? Because I think there's going to be people listening that are going to be super inspired by you and need to know, like, how can I take my first steps here?
Yeah, sure. I had fun coming up with that too. And I had some other ideas in my head, but I think that one made the most sense. But so it's ALLT, so it's for a little less toxic, but really what it is so the A is assess. You look at your, whatever it is, maybe it's your bathroom cabinet, and you assess and look in here and think, what of these items do I actually use and what do I need? Like maybe I can minimize by not having 15 different hair products, And after you assess, then you let go. So you'll start to eliminate the things that are either maybe they're expired or they're worn out, or even though you paid good money for them, you have not used it in over a year and you're not going to use it. You just don't want to throw it away because you're like, oh, I paid money for that. Money's already spent. It's time to move on. So you let those things go. Instantly, at this point, your house is already going to be a lot healthier, right? Because you let go of some things that are no longer serving
Just reducing your use of products. Yeah.
Yeah, it's less cluttered. There's less place for dust to collect. There's less things off-gassing into your indoor air. And you just have more space to think and make decisions, okay? And then after that, the next L is for level up. So every time that something starts to run low or gets close to wearing out, I give myself a window of grace where I start to look for an alternative that is a little less toxic. So maybe it's something I have to get online, so I need some time to order it. Or maybe I need to do a little bit of research and comparing before I invest my money in another product. So I give myself some time and don't wait till something's completely gone. But when it is time to replace something, I don't want to just throw out good stuff that I'm still going to use, right? Even if it's maybe not the best. When it runs out, I'm going to replace it with something that has a little bit better ingredients for me that's within my means. I'm not going outside of my own budget or my own healthy boundaries with finances and all of the things, right? But I'm going to replace it with something that is a little bit better. And when that runs low, I'm going to do it again. And if I can't find something that's better than that product that's within my means, then I know I'm doing the best I can. And then the last is T, and that's time. And that's just, you never really arrived. You're just going to continue to do those 3 steps for the rest of your life. And it's never going to be an overwhelming process. It's never going to be something that's asking you to live outside of your financial means or your physical capacities or your emotional capacities. You're just going to continue to put one foot in front of the other and make your life a little less toxic over time. And within a very short amount of time, you're going to see huge changes. And as you look back, like I'm 10 years now, right? I look back at that 10-year ago me that was like Taco Bell lady on the way to our wedding. I'm not the same person, but you're not going to be the same person in 10 years anyway. So might as well make it a healthier version of you.
Yeah, I love that. So you would recommend just starting in one area, like assess just one area.
Yeah, and it could be, so I think that will vary what area it is for each person. But I think the things that might be more worthy of considering in the front end are things that you are using daily and that are going to need to be replaced more quickly anyway. And like, don't want to tell you, you need to go replace your whole bed you just bought because it's made with toxic. That's silly, and it's nonsense. No one wants you out here wasting your money. So just the things that you're already going to be replacing, just start with those.
Yeah, I think that's good because, I would highly recommend starting with food because you're eating, multiple times a day, and it's just something that you have to think about a lot anyway. But if that seems overwhelming to you, some people are just not food people. Like they don't like to grocery shop. They don't like to menu plan. They don't, and that area is really hard for them. So you do have the freedom to start in another area of your life, one area seems overwhelming, start somewhere else and build up some confidence.
Yeah, even if it is food, you don't have to throw out your whole pantry. It could be just like, I'm going to do better condiments, whatever it might be, just one thing at a time. And over time, that pile's going to grow and it's going to be filled with more good stuff.
Yeah. And how do you choose a new product? I think that's an overwhelming thing for people too, is like, okay, so if I am choosing better hair products right now,
right?
I need to learn what's good, what's bad,
So I think that's changed over time too. When I first started, there weren't as many resources, but now we've got all kinds of stuff. I think I was on Pinterest and there were like 2 or 3 different people that I kind of grew to trust over time and I like their recommendations. But still, I highly recommend you don't just follow someone and take their recommendations blindly, whether it's me or anyone else. I think that you could look at the recommendation and you still need to go and look at that product and read the ingredients and see if it's something that you want to spend your hard-earned money on. Because there have been times where people recommend something and I'm like, turn it around and look at it. I'm like, okay, well, I don't really want that. And so I find something else. So there's a lot of comparing that goes on I do this with all kinds of things. So I don't know what is something that I bought recently, whether it's like a pair of boots, right? Anyone that's like buying a new pair of shoes, you're looking at different things. Okay, you know the things that you're looking for, you know the things that you don't want, and you find different ones and you compare them. You do it online or you do it in person, whichever way suits your personality best. You do this just like you do that. You compare the things and you pick the one that matches all of your things in your box better and fits within your budget. So you might use something like, people on Instagram or websites. There are different apps you can use like EWG and Think Dirty that can help you to really kind of narrow down what these ingredients are and what they can contribute to. And so that you can pick what is within your boundaries right now and be open to change, because my boundaries yesterday or last year aren't the same as they are now. And it's okay to keep growing that way.
Yeah. In my experience, I remember learning about like different ingredients at different times to kind of watch out for.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm never going to remember all these, and I go to the store and I look at the back. I'm like, was this a good one or a bad one? I don't. And so I would keep I actually started keeping a list in my phone in the notes app of like different ingredients to kind of watch out for, like, look out for perfumes or fragrance, look out for parabens, watch for phosphates, different things like that.
Yeah.
Then I didn't have to like stress about keeping it all in my brain.
No, it's crazy. I mean, even just all the different names for MSG. When I learned that in the very beginning, I was like, how am I ever going to remember this list of names for that? So I think I just started to buy things that were filled with the ingredients that I recognized.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And I look really good.
Do I know what this is?
Yeah. Instead of like trying to compare all these crazy names I don't understand, I'm like, well, it just became easier for me to either make things myself or buy ones that had ingredients that I do recognize and that I do know I feel good using.
And food was easier for me to do in that, like the hair care, personal care, cleaning products, like that was a little bit harder for me.
Yes.
A little bit more of a learning curve, but
yeah,
it's definitely possible. And then after a while, it's just becomes second nature to you. You pick up stuff and you're like, nope. Oh, this one's good.
Yes. Yeah. It gets easier, and you'll find your favorites. And then, like I said, when it's like, even if it's shampoo, there's still always going to be ingredients there. There are these long names that I don't understand. But if it's just the one item and it's running low and I give myself that little bit of time to go, okay, are there any other non-toxic shampoos out here that I want to try that are within my budget? What ingredients are in there? I'll try stuff out, and then I might go back to the one I liked before because it worked better or I had better ingredients. But
yeah. You've mentioned being on a budget several times, and I do think that's kind of a hindrance to people making healthy choices sometimes, because there's a thought that it's going to be more expensive or that they're not going to be able to afford it. So what is your take on that? Has it been more expensive for you? Like, how do you manage that aspect of it?
Yeah, it can be. It depends on the approach, right? I didn't buy a water filter until we were like 5-6 years into this journey. We couldn't do it. So we had one on our sink that removed some things, very few, but it was something, right? And it was what we could afford. So my approach has always been kind of that way. We just add on things so some of the things that we do to make our lives healthier actually save us money because we're eating out less. For example, packaged foods cost way more than fresh foods usually, especially when you're buying them regularly, right? Eating out costs way more than cooking at home every time.
Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So what else? So in the beginning, I was making my own cleaning products, and I still do that now with a lot of them. I buy some too, because I like to compare, since I'm sharing about recommendations with people too. But making them saved me a whole lot of money because I was just using vinegar, and my lemon scraps.
Yeah.
So some of these things can really save money. Even like in the bathroom, I went from using a ton of different skincare products to just using jojoba oil as my cleanser and my moisturizer, and so we can really kind of minimize and simplify what we do by going a little less toxic, and that can save us money that way. And there are just lots of ways that like I said, you can do this at any financial boundary. Really, you can have all the money in the world and still never be non-toxic enough, or you can be really financially tight and still find lots of ways to make your home and life healthier.
Yeah, absolutely. And glad we talked about that, because I think that is a big hindrance to people, like thinking, I can't do that because I'm not going to be able to afford it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can not wear your shoes in the house. You can open up your windows more. You can make some more meals at home. Yeah. There are lots of ways to do it without spending a penny.
Yeah, I agree. We also tried to change our mindset a little bit about how we spend our money, really, because if you think about it long term, not just like how much money am I spending today, but like how much money and am I going to end up spending, treating chronic illness in my life? If I don't spend a little bit of money here, if I have to manage chronic illness for the rest of my life with pharmaceuticals and doctor upon doctor visits, so there's a little bit of a mind shift there, like switch that has to change, like about thinking like, oh, I want to spend my money here instead of spending it here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when you were talking about your book on your website, one of the quotes that I wrote down was, every corner of your home can be made to better serve you and your family.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really beautiful way to think about this whole health journey thing, really. Like, it's not just about being stressed out about doing everything perfectly, or worried about, how this is going to affect me and how this is going to affect me. It's really a gift to be able to, make choices that bless my family, that serve my family, that enrich our lives, that increase our quality of life. Like, so instead of thinking about this as like something I have to do, because I got to be a good mom or, whatever. Like, this is just a way that we can serve our family. So I thought that was a really beautiful thought.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think any single one of us needs anything more to stress about or get, this undeserved mom guilt. It's not about that. It's about doing simple things to make our lives easier, to make our bodies their best, and to really just steward these things that we've been given better.
Yeah. Can you describe your book to us? Like, what is your new book about?
Okay, so it's called A Healthier Home, and the little subtitle is The Room by Room Guide to Make Any Space a Little Less Toxic. And I kind of liken it to a cookbook in a way, where it's not something that you pick up and you just like read all the recipes and then you put it on a shelf and then never look at it again. That's a cookbook is something you return to time and time again. You're like, oh, I wanted to make, this dish, or I need something idea for breakfast, right? So it's kind of more like that, where you might read it cover to cover, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I have multiple sides, of course. But it's also something that you can turn to, where you're like, okay, this rug needs replacing. So what's a less toxic option? And it's not all just one thing. There's different materials and there's different things to look for. So you can turn to that area in this book, or you're like, the things we talked about, where it's like, maybe like, oh, I need to change what's going on in my pantry, or the shampoo's running low, or what is a better bedding option, or what other kind of simple tips. So you can turn to any place in here a million times and find ways to make your home a little healthier. And it can be anything from the free stuff to the very more spendy things like the water filters, air filters, and the bed and the furniture. Yeah. So it's for everyone in any season, no matter how long you've been on this less toxic journey. Like I said, I wrote this, right? And I still have not applied all these things because it doesn't make sense for my budget in my life right now. But one day I hope to do these types of things too. So it's
having the resources to like be able to do that when you're ready. I think that's beneficial.
Yeah. I want us to be like a hand-holding guide. We don't always want to be going on Pinterest or scrolling through Instagram and trying to find that post I saved, or didn't somebody recommend this thing? Like, I don't want to be glued to the screen all the time. I like having a handheld resource that I can just flip to and find what I need, and then a pretty thing to stick back on my shelf for next time.
Yes, it is very pretty. So anyone that wants to continue to be inspired by Shawna, I'll put all of your social media stuff, your website in the show notes, as well as a link to your book. And before I let you go, I have 3 questions for you that I asked everyone on the podcast. And the first is, what healthy living resource would you recommend to those that want to continue to learn more? We've got your book. That's
right. Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think it's hard to pick just one, because so you could even go on, I could give you like my top 10 or 20 people on Instagram to follow, and that would be very easy for me to do, hard to narrow it down to anyone. But not everyone's way of delivery is going to fit everyone's style,
Right.
and not everyone's season they're in is going to apply to you. So I think instead of me giving like just a one recommendation, I think that my one recommendation is for you to really figure out what is speaking to you and how you can apply it to your life. And you can tune out anything that is not for you right now in this season. You can mute, unfollow, you don't even have to go on the computer, but I would recommend this book. I hate plugging myself. I'm just very uncomfortable with it, but I do really believe in it. And I think it will be a valuable resource to anyone.
Yeah. So I know you're a mom. I know snacks are part of your life. What would you recommend as a healthy snack?
So how do you choose one healthy snack? I don't know. I'm not like a huge snacker, but when I do snack, I'm snack lady. I pack snacks for all the things, no matter what. I went to a concert this weekend. I brought like a giant tote bag of snacks to share with my friends. But yeah, I like a good beef stick. I like fresh fruits and vegetables. I like to season things a lot. So maybe you know what I really like? Things like watermelon or apple with chili lime salt on it. Just could eat that forever.
Yes,
do that beef stick.
And so yes.
Yes.
So watermelon when you're at home and you can eat something messy, beef stick on.
Yeah. Full protein.
And who would you love to see as a guest on the Daily Wellness Podcast?
One person. Okay, so Jesus. There is no one that's going to have better wellness advice than Jesus himself, right? He was here. I'd get hold of him. Call him up. I would love to hear what he had to say. Gosh, one person though. I can't. It's so hard to pick. Some of my really good friends I feel like just speak into my life so well with this stuff. And I know that they just do a great job delivering these things to people in ways that make sense for them too. I know like Angie Fletcher and Dr. Vivian Chen, my friend Kayla, who does the Family Food Project. She's not always known as like wellness, but she really is. It's food, but it's so good. Yeah, I don't know.
Those are great recommendations. Yeah. It's always interesting just to see, who is speaking into your life, like if you have this book about, being a little less toxic, making your home healthier, and so who are you really inspired by? That's what I love to hear.
Everyone. I love it. I just love people, but people that are kind of more intense with their approach. I learn and glean so much from them too. I'm not going to apply everything that they do right now, but I want to store that right here for later on. And some people that are a lot more relaxed about it. I find so much goodness in that too.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Quick review shout out to Marissa Mommy 6. I am so glad I listened to this great podcast. I have watched some of the recommended documentaries, and as you guys said, it's hard to unhear what you have heard. Great information shared by you both. This podcast has inspired me to work on my family's food choices. Thank you so much for that review. Thanks for listening to today's episode on the Daily Wellness Podcast. We hope that you found it helpful for your own wellness journey, and if so, we'd love for you to leave a review. Then come back and listen for review shoutouts on upcoming episodes. For more information, check out the show notes and connect with us on our website, dailywellnesscommunity.com.